Hi, well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today we have a very special guest, Miss Paulette, who I adore very much. And I adore her admiration and how she's passionate about education and her kids, right? She's also my cousin, so no, I'm not gassing her up, okay? But she's someone that I look toward that if I should become a teacher, which I'm an educator, but not to her level, if I should decide to go to her level, I would want to be like. She's a person that I would want to sit in front of my kids and taught my kids. And, she's someone that I truly admire and I love dearly. But enough about me introducing her. Let she introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Paulette Atkinson. I am a special education teacher in Miami, Florida. I did my bachelor's and master's degree in special education. And I did my specialist degree in also special education with a focus on children mental health issues. So I'm well versed in the needs of special needs students from kindergarten all the way up to senior high school, which is where I currently teach in a senior high school setting, but to specifically autistic IND, which is IND is like a more learning disabilities and Down syndrome students. So that's basically where my focus is.
Our listeners that don't understand what the term IND is, could you elaborate what that is?
Intellectually disabled. So an IND student slash adult would not have the what we call the quote unquote look of being special needs, but cognitively they don't learn at the same rate or have the same cognitive abilities as what we call the general ed students. So some of them can be very high emotionally, but very low cognitively when it comes to education.
And that is education as a special need teacher, as an educator overall. What are some of the challenges that you see working in that field, working with those type of students?
I can honestly say that my challenges don't really come from the students, but my challenges come from society as a whole. Because my students meet me with what they can give me, as in they do their best, they try their best. And as their teacher, I encourage and do my best to get them to where I need them to be. My program that I work in, although they get their academics, reading, writing, math, social studies, and all of that, our main focus is life skills. So we're the ones that are teaching them how to move about society when they're no longer under the care of their parents. With that being said, challenges come a lot from home, not in a negative way, but if I, as the teacher, say to a parent that I don't need you to assist Tommy in putting on his clothes in the morning, I just need you to oversee that he is putting on his clothes by himself. Meaning the life skills that I'm teaching him, he needs to know how to get dressed by himself, not with you putting his arm in his shirt or putting his leg in his pants. Little things like that that we take advantage of are the things that I am teaching. And that's from the parent standpoint. Now, with my program, we are mandated to take these kids out into the community every week. So we call that CBI, community based instruction. And what I love about community based instruction is that there's no limit on where we can take these kids. So a lot of our severely autistic students, their parents don't really take them out on the weekends. They don't really take them to restaurants and things like that. But that's where we come into play. So any given week, like I'll come home and maybe say on Wednesday, I'm taking my kids to Cheesecake Factory. And a lot of people will be like, oh, you're so lucky. You get to go to Cheesecake Factory. But they don't realize that we're teaching a lesson here. I need my students to, the money that they bring with them, I need them to know that when they look at the menu, they're choosing what their money can buy. So we're teaching budgeting. We're teaching, there's still reading skills there. It's easy for us to say to the waitress or waiter, I'll have a burger with onions and pickles and things like that. Whereas my students cannot articulate that. So we're teaching them, we're taking time and showing them what appropriate behavior is in a restaurant and things like that. So the challenges with that would be the general public. You know what I'm saying? For most parts, we get good people. People are accepting and they encourage us and things like that. But you do have people out there that unfortunately don't understand that there are people, students, kids, adults that just cannot do things on their own and will always be supported. So
Okay.
it's a lot.
Okay, and as you said about program and how that fund come about, and is there ever a time where you guys feel like you're underfunded for those sources?
Well, I'm in the public school sector. This is a part of their curriculum. Just like our kids we send to school, their curriculum is, algebra, all of this other stuff. Community-based instruction is a part of the curriculum for students that are on alternative access points, and that's what we call their curriculum. So that is written into the budget. But when you come across seasons like now, like we're in election season,
Mhm.
we have to be very careful that we have people in certain political offices that continue to adhere to the needs of the special needs population. We need those that will not go in and try to slash policies for these students and feel like it's unnecessary. Because what we're doing is serious work, it's real work. And like I explain to the parents, I explain to parents all the time that unfortunately our days here are numbered. What we want for your children is to be able to at least provide for themselves, not necessarily financially, because a lot of my students will be forever in supported living, but we need them to be able to speak what they need, be able to communicate, be able to take care of themselves at a minimum, because we all know no one is going to take care of your child the best way better than you.
You mentioned something earlier that I was going to ask you on. Like you said, whoever we put in office, make sure that they do not cut funding when it comes down to education, special needs, education overall.
Right.
How would you say a parent could get involved into these things? Because a lot of parents think that, well, we don't need to do this, right? For me, and what would you say to them? How can they help? How can our listener help? As parent, teachers, what would ensure that whoever we elected?
Well, what I would say, not only just parents, but everyone, every constituent in every state, city, everything, be cognizant of who's in your local offices. Don't just go off of what you hear. We all have to do our due diligence and do our own research into every candidate going for every office. So, as for parents, I would implore them to do that research and not just go off of word of mouth, because a candidate that they might support might have an underlying disdain for education, and we don't know that. You know what I'm saying? Not every parent has the ability to send their child to a private school. You have to be aware of the politicians that are pro private school, because if they're pro private school, then they're taking money from the public sector and funneling it into the private sector. And we see that happen constantly.
Uh-huh.
And when they continuously cut, and cut, it's the child that's going to suffer. That's where the feeling comes. The kids, the students feel it first.
So, in other words, you encourage people not only to do their research, but also go out and vote.
Absolutely.
Voting,
Absolutely.
and when they think that a lot of parents and educators and everyone alike, I hear, well, my vote doesn't count. What do you have to say about that?
Well, it doesn't count if they don't exercise their right to vote. They're absolutely right. It does not count if they don't vote. Where they will see that their vote matters the most is in our local elections. And I tell people that all the time. Running for president, that's where the money is. And you see all of those commercials and things like that. But are parents aware, and regular constituents, are they aware that every congressional seat and Senate seat is also up for reelection? Are they aware who's running for governor of their state? Are they aware who's running for their local mayor, for their local county and city commissions, for their local aldermans in cities where they have aldermans? Are they aware of those people? Because that's where they will feel the impact the most.
And then some of the challenges, what you said, glad you touched on that, and back to the challenges that we face with these kids. As an educator, how do you deal with parents? Because first, earlier you mentioned that you spoke to parents about, I don't need you to help Tommy or John or Bob.
Mhm.
I don't need you to help them. I need you to be able to assist them, right?
Right.
A lot of parents, we all as parents, and don't want to see our kids suffer, struggle to do something. We feel like, especially mothers, we feel like we
Mhm.
have to mother them all the time. When they come to you and you realize that the progress that they make in school is going backward, how do you educate those parents?
You first have to have a whole lot of empathy for that parent of the child with special needs, because they're not labeled special needs for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you cannot. I don't get angry with parents, but I do educate them. I educate them. I'm not in your home with your child, but this is what we're doing in the classroom. And when I say that your child is thriving on doing things on their own, when they come home, if you can just follow through with that. And for the most part, we get good feedback and get good responses from parents. But there are some parents that, how can I say, we have a large population here in Miami, Florida, where it's not just the nuclear mom, dad, and children in the house. You have the grandmothers, we call them the abuelas, in the home with the kids. And we all know that grandma, those are the babies, if grandma can spoon feed you up into your 20s and 30s, grandma will do that because that's what grandmothers do. So you have to get everyone involved and everyone on the same page. So a lot of times conversations take place after school hours, on the phone and things like that. You tell a parent, the population that we have, a lot of our parents have our phone numbers, because I'm the type of teacher. If Tommy's not doing what I have asked him to do Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays he's cutting up and not adhering to what needs to be done, absolutely get me on the phone and have him on and put it on speakerphone. Because I'm going to say, Tommy, is that what we do in the classroom? What is it that we do with Miss Atkinson and da da da, and have them repeat what needs to be done? They're smarter than they let on, and a lot of our kids, they try to manipulate, and that's just what kids do. But you have to be consistent. So, and that's the same thing with the parents. You have to be consistent. It's hard, but it has to be done. What I love about my students is when they come to me in the ninth grade, most high school kids are there for 4 years. I have my kids for 7 years, because they don't have to leave out of the system until age of 22. So when I get them at 14, I can have them all the way up until their young adult years. And then we have an adult program where it's from age 22, I believe, to 27. So we're seeing them through those years. So that's what I love.
If a parent is listening now and would like to go about that program or that they have, and any such sources, is there any way that you could tell them how to get those sources?
Well, through Miami-Dade County Public Schools, the adult program is called the SOAR program, SOAR. I'm not sure what the acronym means. I know that program is like fairly new within our school system. Probably, I think this might be the third year, but I can get more information and pass it on to you.
And what are some of the dilemmas you see within this field overall?
The dilemmas don't come from the students. It doesn't come from the physical. being in the classroom, being the educator with my students. My dilemmas and my shortfalls come from the expectancy of district rules and just things like that. Because not only am I responsible for my students, but I know you're familiar with the term IEP,
Mhm.
things like that. So I also have to write IEPs, which is fine, but there's a lot of paperwork that comes with this role that I'm in. And the more paperwork that's being piled on, the less I'm hands-on with my students. So if I can go to work every day and just, close the door and not even have to sign my name to a piece of paper, that'd be perfect because then I'll have more time to do what I need to do with them. But unfortunately, in this system, there's paperwork, there's a form for everything. You have to be called out to a meeting for this. You have to do this. There's a professional development you have to take for that. It's a lot. It's a lot.
And that's where more and more, and I know there's some new regulation that I don't know for over there, but I know for Connecticut, there's a lot of new regs that is in place that they do, and especially even for providers. Now they have it where they want us to have either your associate or your bachelor degree just to be a family child care provider.
Hmm.
Requirement, but they will like you to have it and they will pay for it. And you could have your CDIA and your NACDA accreditation, which they pay you, the increment goes up. As you educate yourself in your field, I know there's always more room for learning. I know we all never, even I don't care how old we always learn. There's always
Hmm.
in over time. And for anyone that want to go in your profession and think that, okay, you know what, I just want to be a teacher, what would you say to those person?
I mean, I welcome anyone. I welcome anyone to the profession because if I can go back in time, the one thing I said that I would never do growing up was be a teacher. I said I would never. I would go to school and look like, why do they come here every day and deal with these? Because the kids that would just bad and just wouldn't listen. And why would anyone want to come and deal with this every day? Like I could never be a teacher, but here I am. And I ended up here when my son was in the third grade and dealing with district testing that had to be done in order for them to go on to the next grade and stuff. And he was having difficulties. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to change my major from nursing and I'm going to go into education because the more I know, the more I can help him. And I found myself going along. Eventually, I ended up graduating with my bachelor's degree in special education. And I'm like, well, I got this degree, I better go get a job. And that's what I did. And once I got into the system, I realized that my son's needs was the tip of the iceberg. And he's fine. Like he graduated high school, went on to college and things like that. But once I got into the system and I saw that, oh, wait a minute, it's not just my son that had an issue with such and such. It's like 90% of the kids. But 90% of the kids don't have the parents that have the ability to go back and change a major and do this and do that. It was just something that just clicked in my head. I'm going to do what I need to do so I can help my child. Not saying that another parent doesn't want to help their child, but I needed to get into the inner works of the system in order to figure out why this is not working for my child because I know the child that I'm sending to school to you every day can do this. So why is this not adding up? And once I got in there is when I saw the deficits. So for any new teacher coming into it, again, I welcome anyone who wants to come into the profession. It is a wonderful profession because you get to meet some of the best people in the world in their most formative years. So when you see your students graduate and go on to become big things, and you get the ability to say, I knew him when he was 12 years old and was struggling with math, and I helped him, and now look at him doing this on the world stage. That's the beauty of the profession. If they come into it, I don't want them to lose that by getting caught up into all of the paperwork that we have to deal with and all of the, like you said, regulations and this and that, because education is it's a very tricky field. And I say that to say that there are those of us that are in it with our hearts. And then you also have the other side of people who come in to the profession just to be predators. And that in a sense right there, it breaks down the best of us as educators, because it's like we're trying to do this and you came in here with an ulterior motive.
Like you said, they come in it, you got to come in it basically for the love, not.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
And what, because, okay, we understand, because I love what I do. I love being a provider. I love my children. Like you said, it's nothing like the feelings of getting to watch your student walk across the stage.
Yeah,
The other day I went out with one of my kids and her mom, and she's in college now, and I'm like, look at you. I was babysitting you a couple of
right,
10 years ago. Now we having the drink together.
right.
So there's nothing like that feeling. And they click to me as their mom, their second mom. They call me if they're not listening, if they can't talk to their mom, they sit there like, Miss T, this is what he did. And they call me Miss T. That's the name they gave me. And it is a really rewarding feeling to watch
It is.
them grow up, to know that you're with a part of that. You have formed that student, you have molded them to the adult that they are today.
Yeah.
And what would you say about people that look at it like, okay, I get to be a teacher, I get to have my summer off, I get good pay. Now we have to talk about love. Yeah, we all go in it for we love, but we have bills, right? And even though we get the summer off, our bills don't get off.
No,
School may
no.
pause, holiday may come, but the school. So what do you say?
The general public, people who are not in education, first thing they need to understand is why we have the summers off. This is not something that we elected to do. Now, I might ruffle some feathers here and it might come off a little abrasive, but if given the opportunity, I would much rather have year round school,
Mhm.
because the summers off is an antiquated system where I can't even go back into the dates or whatever, but children were given the summers off so they can go to the fields and migrate and go wherever to harvest and things like that. This was back in those times, and I'm not talking about slavery or anything like that. I'm talking about after slavery, and everyone,
Mhm.
they had to go to the fields. It was harvest time. Summer is the time for harvest. And that's why children were out of school for the summers back then, was because they had to go work. Fast forward to now, for us to be off in the summers, that means that our paychecks are off as well. Now, you can get paid throughout the summer, but for us to get paid through the summer, they have to take off money during the 10 months that we're in school. So every 2 weeks before I get my paycheck, I would say $700 is taken off. I don't even see that
Mhm.
until the summer, and it's put in a pot. And so over the summer, while I'm home and not working, a check is being distributed to me, but that's money that I had already worked for. So it's a trade-off. I love my summers, but if I had the opportunity to give it up and work, let's say we go on a system where we work 9 weeks and then we're off for 2 weeks, I would love that year round, because you'll see that kids can excel more. Summers also scare me because I don't know if you see this, and I'm sure you do, but as soon as when summer is steadfastly approaching, is when we're starting seeing tragedies
Mhm.
with kids because they get into things. And I'm not saying that we're just there to babysit, but what I'm saying is that when they're in school, they're actively doing something,
Yeah.
and we're actively doing something with them. And you as the parent can continue your job and continue doing what you need to do, knowing that, you know, in a sense, your child should be safe when they come to school. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So summers scare me from that aspect. They scare me because I'm like, these kids are out here, they don't have much to do, and they get into things that they shouldn't be getting into.
So for a summer off, you're saying in order to get those off, that's the people that whoever that are listening, our listeners will say, okay, you know what? If you could get the summer off, yes, you can, but you have to realize that am I willing to get that cut in my paycheck, basically?
Exactly.
Am I willing?
Exactly.
You know what? I'm going to put aside $700 a week or every 2 weeks or whatever way you get paid a month. Just said, okay, I'm going to sacrifice this for the summertime so I could enjoy my summer. But yes, still, a lot of people that don't want to do that.
Mhm.
What would you say for those people that okay, I can't afford to lose $700 because my bill is too high and I'm not getting enough pay and I'm already burnt out of this. What would you say to those people? What do those people do in that time when they didn't do it?
That's where you see uh, the teachers with more than one job.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? That's where you go to your local Texas Roadhouse and your waitress happens to be your colleague or Uber or things like that. You can say, in a sense, it is heartbreaking because we are overeducated and severely underpaid because twice a week when I leave my school at 2:20 in the afternoon, I go straight to the library because now I have to run my own tutoring business.
Mm.
And I tutor a couple kids, and that's how I am able to keep a positive cash flow in my pocket because my entire paycheck goes to housing, food, maintaining, a car, things like that, just some daily living. It's a lot.
It is. And as we mentioned burnt out, how do you handle when you are burnt out in that day? What do you guys do to get back at that moment to say, you know what, I'm burnt out, I can't do this? And moment when you just feel like giving up.
Um, when I feel overwhelmed and burnt out, again, it's in my 18 years of being in the classroom, the burnout has never come from having to physically be with students every day. The burnout has come from the added expectations outside of the classroom poured into the teacher's cup that we have to do. But when I get to a point where I'm like, I need a mental break, I stay home and take a mental break. Like if I just am like, I'm tired, I need a mental day. I'm taking a mental health day. I take a mental health day. And if that means that day, instead of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready, I don't get out of my bed till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then hey, then so be it. I encourage people, and that's with any profession. If you feel like your back is against the wall, take a day off, relax. What I don't do is take the stress from home and bring it into my work, and I don't take the stress from work and bring it into my home. So, I cut it off.
How do someone like you put the difference? I love what you said. You don't take the stress from home, bring it into the classroom, and you don't take the stress from your classroom and bring it into your home. But a lot of people don't know how to differentiate the difference, don't know how to separate those. So how do you handle it? I want to hear from that perspective of you. How do you separate it? Because
So before actually coming into the classroom and becoming a teacher, I worked for 12 years on a forensic psych unit. I worked at the hospital in psych. And I had the unfortunate pleasure of seeing a lot of public school teachers come through the psych unit that have had mental health breakdowns.
Mm.
And during my studies, I was like, I have to make a promise to myself that whatever stress I have to learn how to let it go. I have to learn how to let it go. It's not easy, but there are times I'm just like, you know what? I can't change it. Let it go. It takes practice. Uh, it just takes a lot. And people might say, "Oh, but you're so strong," and da 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 da. Not really, because my best times I have are in my shower when I'm crying and nobody can see. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you have to learn how to let certain things go. It's not fair to your family to bring home all of the mess that happened at work. And it's also not fair to your coworkers to bring to work all the mess that is going on in your house. And we've all come across people in the workplace that are so angry and angry over things that didn't happen at work, but they're taking it out on people at work. And
Right.
so we just have to learn how to just say woosah, take breathe in, breathe out. You just got to learn how to do it.
So with that said, well, we're here, and what my takeaway and what I'm taking away from this is put you first. We love our
Yes.
job. We love our job. We love what
Mhm.
we do. But we're not going to be good to our students if we're not good to ourselves first. If
Right.
we're not mentally able to focus on us, we
Yeah.
not, can't focus on the students. So at times, when you feel like, okay, you know what, I just want to scream, I just want to shout, I want to walk away, you know what you do? Go in the bathroom. Take that day, even if you're at school, because sometimes I know a lot of us cannot afford to take that day off. For me,
Hmm.
for example, with my as a 24-hour daycare, I when I have all my children, I service 18 children, three different shifts, right?
Hmm.
I have some very challenging children in my program, and some who are not. When the challenging one comes, I feel like I'll have all 18 of them together with those, okay? So what I do in those times, I intend to be like, you know what? I pause.
Hmm.
I pause. I have them take that moment for themselves. I said, listen, I gave them like a puzzle. I gave them something and I walk away.
Hmm.
And then I go and I take a breather, like she said, take a breather and focus on yourself. We are no good to anyone, whether it's your student, your family, your friend, your neighbor, if we're not good to yourself first.
Right.
Always put you first. Pamper yourself.
Hmm.
Don't care how much you build because the bill's gonna be there. Yeah, if you
Right.
like buying a soda, buy the soda. You feel like want to sit there and do something, do it. That's what she's saying basically. Focus on you and better than you when those when
Right. But not only that, another thing that as the adult in the room, as the education provider, we have to also know that the kids that we are teaching and providing a service to aren't coming from our homes. We know how we run our homes, but we don't know where they're coming from and what they've experienced, which is why I make it a mission of mine that I definitely have to be in my classroom early, because what I don't want is to greet my students in a haste. Like, oh my God, I'm running late and da 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 and da 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 da. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to add more stress to whatever they're coming from, whatever situation they're coming from. I need them to know that at least when they walk into my classroom, room 55, they're going to walk into a nice aromatic, because I believe in aromatherapy. It calms them down. They're going to walk into a nice smelling room with a smile on my face because I want them to be there. I don't ever want them to come into my classroom and I'm looking at them like, why you here? You know what I'm saying? Because they might get that same feeling at home, and then get the feeling that, oh, nobody wants me. I had a student in my early years, but I would believe my first 3 years of teaching, that and I've always been in the high school setting. Every day he was in indoor suspension until I went down to indoor suspension one day and I'm like, why are you in here every day? And he's like, because I don't have a uniform. And I'm like, why are you not wearing your uniform? Nobody ever asked his kid why. And he said, Miss, my mom has cancer and she's been sick and she can't really get up off the couch. And, I haven't gotten any new school uniforms. So he was coming to school every day in jeans and a t shirt. And it pissed me off because after I left him in indoor suspension, I went right to the administrators and said, "Did anybody ever take the time to ask him why? Are you really think that he's showing up here every day just to be defiant? Isn't he supposed to be here? Like, shouldn't we be grateful that he comes every day?" And I told the administrator, I'm like, I'm getting ready to go to Walmart. I'm going across the street because there's a big Walmart across the street from my school. And I said, I'm going to Walmart and I'll be back. I went and I got him 5 pair of pants. I got him 5 uniform shirts. I got him some t shirts and I got him some underwear and I got him some socks. And I brought them to him. And I said, these are your uniforms. When they're dirty, leave them with me. I'll have them washed and bring them back, but you'll always have a uniform. And then my administrators were like, oh, I'll give you money. I'm like, no, no, no. I don't want you guys to give me money. I wanted you guys to ask him questions the same way I asked him the question.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So we're more than teachers. We're now the mothers, the fathers, the social workers, the counselors, the friends. And I took money that I didn't have because I have two kids. I have a mortgage and all that other stuff. But this kid was coming to school every day. So who am I to stand in the way of him coming to school and not being in my class? And
Right.
when he said his mom had cancer, it clicked. He's also coming to school every day because he needs breakfast and he needs lunch. And when he left school until he graduated, he also had dinner because I made sure he had dinner. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that go into this calling to be an educator. It's a lot.
I have some wonderful educator on, and I think this is one of my best podcast series because it unfolds so much and
Hmm.
a lot of people wanted to hear. And I'm happy that you're not filter about it and you're sharing the real you and you be able to share what's really going on and how you feel. And as the educator that you are, this is the reason why I said what I said earlier, how much I admire you, and how much I adore. And if I have my children, I would love for them to be in your classroom setting.
Oh, thank you.
And no, it's the truth. Like my daughter that's in the military now and they getting deployed, she and her husband, and they tell them to give me full custody, temporary custody of the baby.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I have so many kids, but then licensing gonna tell me I need to probably put my grandson in another childcare until those kids leave. So I'm not overcapacitated. Now my
Hmm.
fear, I listen to a lot of educators and I listen to a lot of providers and I listen to how they are and I could tell that they're not passionate about their job.
Right.
And to go back to what I said is that this is why I would love if you was close to my children, I would put in your care, right?
Hmm.
Hard to find someone that you could entrust and that
Yeah.
care about their job as much as you do. Because
Hmm.
you see that there was a need, there was something with that child, and you meet him where everyone just put him aside and just ignore him. You know what?
Right.
Quiet. We all have a thing to say, oh, these kids are bad. And this is why within my program I do too. Like I tell you, when those children I have, my toughest children come here. When I feel like okay, I just want to pull my hair, I say, listen, Miss Steve's gonna step outside,
Hmm.
get a breather, and come back in, and I will ask them what's wrong. And then that's when they unfold to me what they've been going through at home.
Yeah.
You do, and I would get everything. But you're right. Instead of judging these children, or assuming they just being defiant or bad, as we call them. I don't like that term bad because no children
Right.
are bad. Children, they want you to talk to them, and
Right.
they look up to us as, okay, this person is my superhero, or this person will understand. Well, come down to their level and talk to them. When I do that, then I realize what's going on, and more I could able to talk to these children. And
Right.
even a mom turned to me and said, I don't know what you did to my kids, but they've been so much better since coming to you. Right?
Yeah.
The school, they've been getting kicked out of school. They've been put aside. And now the teachers want to sit with them. So you're right. And thank you for that. And a lot of not only as a parent and as an educator, but as a friend, and a family member, I want to say thank you. And thanks for having someone like you in this field. And we hope anyone that's listening to us today will get in this field with the same passion that she has. And I appreciate everything. And there's any for final thoughts that you like to share to our listeners?
Um, all I can say is thank you as well because of the service that you're providing, and yours is 24 hours. That's a big commitment as well. Whereas my school days are 7:20 to 2:20, but we don't turn that off. Even if I see my kids in the public and stuff, I'm still in teacher mode with them. I love them to death, but we're still going to follow, the rules and things that we need to do. It is a rewarding job, and I need those that are going into it when it comes to lesson plans. Of course, we have to have our lesson plans, but there are going to be days you're going to walk into your classroom and you pull out your lesson plan, and the lesson that you planned on teaching is going to get thrown out the window. You're just going to have to throw it out. And that has happened to me on numerous occasions where I go in and I just, like you said, a challenging student, and it just turns into a whole group therapy session. All right, let's close our books. We're working on our emotions today. This one had an outburst and appears to be very angry. Who can tell me what tools do you take, or what do you do when you're angry, and how do you calm yourself down? And it just turns into a, you know, am I my brother's keeper type of situation. I let them, work with each other and things like that. So yeah, it's rewarding profession. It's a never ending profession. Even those that retire, it's a never ending thing. That's just what you do. You know what I'm saying? I'm grateful that I did go into it because I've had the opportunity to educate some wonderful people.
And you said earlier, I'm back at you now personally. You said earlier that you do tutoring. Do you have a link that anyone that want to listen? Do you do by Zoom? Is it always have to be in person? How do you do the tutoring?
I do here in person, but I'm not opposed to setting up online tutoring. My field is reading. So I did my master's in reading as well. That was one of the hardest things. Girl, that was harder than childbirth. Okay. But I got a master's degree in reading. I didn't realize that it was so in depth.
All right.
But I do work on reading comprehension from kindergarten all the way through college and things like that. I don't have a card. I mean, you have my email. You can
Yeah.
put my email.
Can you say so? They put it in the link below. Can you say what it is?
My email
Yes.
is patkinsongrant@gmail.com. And from there, anyone can email me. And if they want to do online tutoring, I'm not opposed to setting up a link and doing that with their children, or if they need it for themselves.
Okay. And you don't have a YouTube channel or anything
I
like
don't have YouTube. I'm very scared and shy of the camera. I need to do one day I'm gonna get out of this shell and go on and do stuff like that.
that? All right.
One day.
So I want to thank you for your time here, and I really appreciate everything that you do and everything that you share. And last but not least, get out and vote, and do
Yes.
not vote because that person looks like me, or that person, I think that person is great. Vote like we said earlier for what is going to benefit you. You need
Right.
something that's going to benefit your children and benefit your community long term. And don't get off this, oh, I don't care. My kids don't go to public school. No, whether they go to public or private, we're being affected by it.
Exactly.
And that's what it is. And as always, guys, like, share it, and subscribe and share. And anyone have a story that they would like to be shared, you like your voice to be heard, an educator, a parent, a commissioner, a governor, a senator, you can always check my email, send me a message, and I would, my link would be below, and then we get back to you. And you guys, thank you.